Oh, hey everybody, welcome to my first live stream. Who knows what's going to happen? Who knows what's going to go wrong? Today, I want to talk about something called majority despotism. Um, this actually came up about a year ago. There was a vote by the BC Chiropractic Association, of all things, and they made a vote as a majority that I felt just wasn't really a good idea. I disagreed with it, obviously, but they made a majority vote. And what they did was they took away the ability for some chiropractors, a minority, maybe 10 to 15% of chiropractors practice this way. They took away the ability for them to actually take x-rays. And I felt that that was a bit of a violation. I didn't think there was enough of a reason. I thought the techniques they used were actually really good. Patients like it. They tend to actually appreciate being able to have x-rays to see their actual progress as they go through care. So I thought it was an overreach by the college, but people seemed to vote in favor of it. It seemed to be a majority, but the effect it had on people's practice was not very good. And to be honest, it took away some of the freedom for people in BC to actually have the type of care that they want. It made them actually raise their eyebrows, I think, in terms of it took away some of the credibility of chiropractic when they did that. So that's just my opinion. I think we should have diversity, etc. But it got me wondering, is this an inherent flaw in democracy? Because in their mind, they're saying, well, we voted on this, so it's democracy. You're anti-democracy. If you don't go along with this, you're not partaking in the democratic way. You're un-Canadian, unscientific, etc., which is baloney, of course. And I just have somebody at the door, and they're walking away. Okay. Which is baloney, of course. But it got me thinking, is this, when I studied philosophy, I studied ethics, but I didn't study politics. I didn't know anything about it. So that's when this word came up. It's called, and I heard it just passing in a conversation, and I heard it called majority despotism. And I Googled it, and what comes up is actually tyranny of the majority. So what this is, if we can just actually read through it, and I know it's a Wikipedia article, it's not a textbook, and this is all I got. This is the best I can do right now. So the tyranny of the majority is an inherent weakness to the majority rule in which majority of an electorate pursues exclusively its own objectives at the expense of those of the minority factions. This results in oppression of minority groups comparable to that of tyranny or despot, argued John Stuart Mill in his 1859 book on liberty. Now, this is an inherent weakness in democracy, and what they're saying is that this is actually fixed by giving people human rights. So people can vote, but the truth is most people don't, they may not know about their rights. And if they don't, then they're going to oppress a minority. So what we saw, for example, was Idi Amin I can't remember the country, Uganda. So Idi Amin had the majority actually wanted him to deport all of the Asians from Uganda, I think, and there was majority rule, and they did that, but they violated their human rights. So they didn't have human rights. They weren't following that. So that what you have is, tyrannical behavior where people are really put out, and obviously that's horrible. I'm just saying this is actually in the framework of democracy and of people voting, and this actually does affect, in this case, it affects you directly in terms of the medical care that you can get, just on these little decisions, relatively small decisions. But we're kind of missing this framework, aren't we? And it's just this interesting sort of way that I got to discovering that, oh, this is actually a thing that's been discussed, it turns out, for perhaps thousands of years. In ancient Greece, they spoke about this. They called it, I think, mob rule. I wonder if it's actually here. If we look at mob rule, majority rule is a decision rule that selects alternatives which have a majority. So all democratic nations use majority rule, yes. And we saw even Trudeau's government being accused of just following polls and saying, well, if I'm going to get voted in, then that's fine. And if people don't care about their civil rights, then that's I guess they don't care, and then the government just gets more powerful, don't they? And there are two scenarios in which this happens: centralization, excess. So I think centralization. This happens in science and in medicine, where we get centralization, where it's like we're getting um, what are they called? Clinical guidelines. Okay, so some centralization is good because it gives you a ballpark figure. Perhaps there are, if you look at the hierarchy in terms of the type of research that's done, my clinical experience is considered low quality. But if we go up the hierarchy where they get into large clinical trials or meta-analysis and stuff like this, apparently this is considered higher quality, but you're also farther away from the person. So they can give me statistics saying, well, 90% of the time this is going to work. Well, that's fine, but there's still the 10% where it doesn't work. And when you get into that where things are centralized, then you lose that empathy. You're out of that circle of empathy with the patient, with you, and what happens is the patient doesn't get care that's as good for them. So centralization excess, when the centralized power of a federation makes a decision that should be local, breaking with the commitment to the subsidiarity principle. So this is obviously a thing. Again, I'm not into politics, but it sounds like they've described this principle. Typical solutions to this condition are concurrent majority and supermajority rule. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means. Okay. And abandonment of rationality. Decision which bases its claim to rule upon members not upon rightness or excellence, the use of public consultation, technical consulting bodies, and other similar mechanisms to help to improve the rationality of decisions before voting on them. So judicial review, declaration of nullity. So a few things I don't understand, but technical consulting bodies, for example, you may have scientists saying, oh, should we have a vote on this, or you may have people deciding this beforehand and having a rational reason to do this before people actually come to a vote on it. So this puts a lot of responsibility on people, doesn't it? And that's about all I wanted to say about that. Mostly about the circle of empathy. And I hope you found that interesting. I learned something a little while ago, and I thought you'd like it too. All right, bye.